On this week's episode, we talk about the recent USDA crop report, new insight on prevent plant programs, and offer some tips for spotting herbicide injury in your soybean fields.
Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Welcome to Cup of Joe, episode number 35. Today we have Tommy and Turk and Ben, and let's talk about what happened this past week. Let's start with Turk.
Big news this week, obviously, is the planted acreage report. Grain stocks report came out also, but planted acreage report, trade was a little bit taken off guard with that, with corn acres planted up 3% over 2018, and soybean acres down 10% over 2018. So the markets are reacting, corn going down and soybeans moving up. But so now that we got this report behind us, what's going to happen is the trade is going to start focusing on weather, and so look for next week to be kind of a choppy sideways, and then, like I've said before, July 4th will be, when we come back from the July 4th weekend, they're going to be looking at what's the weather forecast for the 30, 60, and 90 days, and from here on, we'll be looking at weather and thinking about weather. But the other thing that I'll comment on is I made a trip across Iowa and Illinois this week and seen a lot of variation. Seed crops in all stages. The good news, seeing some soybeans in a lot of fields now just coming up, and that is good news. And things are looking up for soybeans in general, but the corn is in tough shape in general across the board. Everywhere that I looked, I've seen fields that looked really good, seen fields that looked really bad, seen fields that were weedy, and all over the board. So all different stages or heights within the field. So obviously drainage is a big key to making some problems. And now what we're starting to hear is some disease coming in. And it's been ideal conditions, hasn't it?
Yeah, high humidity, a lot of rainfall. Now we're starting to get the heat coming in. We're going to see every disease in the book, and it's going to be a tough year to make decisions on whether fungicides, they're going to help yield, but are they going to pay?
Right.
Yeah, pay for the crop? In my opinion, you always go for yield because you can market it afterwards. You want, penny changes in the market help pay for things pretty quickly. So
yeah, there's no question about it. The market's going to have some strength in it with the supply side, because most farmers and business people understand the supply side. The demand side is always hard to figure out. And of course, this Saturday, I believe President Trump's meeting with the president of China at the G20 meeting in Japan. So that will happen. Hopefully, something positive will come out of that. That will also help the demand side.
We were talking this morning about how it's almost on a microclimate standpoint on why these fields are so wavy when they're going across, and I think a lot of it has to do with compaction. And it's compaction that's in a normal year the corn plant would push through, but because of all the saturated soils that we've had and the ponding that we've had, it's even like within different feet in inches in the field. You can see plants that are 6 inches shorter compared to the robust, healthy ones.
Well, we even saw that in our plot with the same variety.
Yeah.
Yesterday when we were looking at the plot.
Yep.
All the replants that we've had so far come across my desk, and we require pictures. The reason why we require pictures is so that we can learn something from it. And I'm seeing a lot of slots. In other words, we know that this crop went in less than ideal conditions. In other words, very wet, seed slot still open, but surprisingly, so far replants have been relatively low for us. But looking at the ones that are, I would agree that compaction issue is definitely going to be there.
Those beans planted in those slot Joes didn't have to fight to get out.
No, that's right. Came right up. It's
sunlight too.
No-till planting now, and it's called slot planting, I think, or whatever. But anyhow, it's been a tough year to get anything done for farmers, and it's not getting any easier.
Yeah.
Tommy, you have anything that you would like to add?
There's a couple things. One is I know Sonny Perdue had I got this from Carly the other day talking about some of the market facilitation payments coming from Trump and how that's going to work with preventive planning. And there's more to come on all that. We've been hearing from state-to-state basis. I know in Wisconsin, it came for, you could use a cover crop for corn and soybeans. We learned that. And then also in some states, it hasn't been confirmed yet, and Turk, you might find this out as well, but some of that preventative planting is coming up to 90% coverage.
That's what I'm hearing. Again, I haven't seen any official announcement on that from the government, but the crop insurance agents are telling folks that. And again, it is going to be an election year, so
Crazy things happen.
I'm sure crazy things are going to happen, or good things are going to happen for the folks that need it.
When the dust all settles or the mud dries up, whatever way you want to say it this year, I think farmers are going to be much happier at the end of this year, because the market is going to reward them for their old crop, and then we've got some good things happening on the market for this new crop. And Mother Nature seems to have a way to take away but also give. So we get a good September, and we'll catch that month back up we lost this spring, and this thing could turn out more positive than we think. So the farmers just keep doing the best job that they possibly can. That's what I've been taught my whole entire life. If whatever you do, just do the best possible job that you possibly can, and good things will happen. So I wanted to make another comment too. If you noticed, last week we had our episode up, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. And what I wanted to tell you is that we had some new information on there that we were asked is not to disclose it until everything was, the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. And it had to do with HPPD carryover. So we will get that back up soon as we make sure that we're saying the right things and telling the right story. But it had to do with LibertyLink GT27 soybeans compared to other soybeans. And what we thought was pretty significant in a plot that we observed in northeast Iowa. So we'll get back to you on that. So don't worry. We will try to give you as much information as possible that will help you increase your potential bottom line with Mershman soybeans. So is there anything else that we have that we need to talk about? Ben, you were talking a little bit about some of the injury on soybeans you're seeing this year.
Yep, I had quite a few phone calls this week throughout the entire Midwest where all of our marketing area is. Just to kind of remind guys, when you get in a corner, you feel like you're backed into a hole when you got two chemical reps or a seed rep or whoever is sitting there talking to you and telling you, well, this is what's happening and this is what's out in the field. We're seeing herbicide injury, I guess, to start off with. But when they're blaming it on something that you don't necessarily think it is, or you want to do further investigation, one of the first things that you always do is you try to find sprayer skips. You walk the edges of the field. You try to find waterways that may be protecting the crop from one thing or another. Just do the real good due diligence to try to find the areas that possibly would be unaffected, because we're hearing a lot of excuses. I would call it a pathetic, a lazy excuse of Alivo's causing this problem, or this is causing that problem. And I really honestly, Alivo slows plants down. We know this coming out of emergence, but there's no crinkled leaves from Alivo. There's no stunted plants. There's no dead plants from Alivo. It's frustrating for the fourth year in a row now that we're seeing these issues. But there's always an answer, because if you can find those areas where the beans haven't been affected, and then you get to start going through spray records, go back, where was that sprayer before that field? Where was that sprayer overnight? Did it have something left in the tank sitting overnight? When was the last time they cleaned the end caps out of the booms? There's just always an answer, because you just need to look into everything a lot deeper.
I tell a lot of guys when I run into that, always get a second opinion. And it's easy to blame the other person when they're not there, obviously, because we all want everything to work out right. But at the end of the day, you're right, there is an answer. And right or wrong, there's still an answer. And there's different ways, like you said, walking the edges of the field. You'll find it pretty quick. Right. And Turk had a good example of, an instance where some brome had covered some soybeans away from the sprayer, and he could lift that up, and he saw that there was perfect soybeans under there. So always getting a second opinion. Ben's always available if you want to call him. So put him out there. And but you're exactly right. There's a lot of
Tommy,
point fingers
there's
out
a
there.
cardinal rule in this business.
Yeah, I know.
You know, if you're a chemical company, you blame the seed, and if you're a seed company, you blame the chemical company. That's just the way it is. But the reality of it is, like you say, you got to do your homework, got to do your investigation, and normally you can find it out. And typically, what you're going to find out, it's not just one thing, it may be a combination of things. You know, to kill a soybean, it is really, really hard to kill a soybean. It takes the perfect bad weather. It takes the herbicides in the right spot in the wrong place. It takes some type of disease, and normally that's a compound effect that will kill a plant. It's never one thing. In other words, I don't know of anything that will kill a soybean. It's just one thing. It's usually a train wreck. It's a whole bunch of things in a row that set up the perfect storm. Because and that's what we've always found.
Joe, was it 4 years ago we went out east here of West Point and looked at those fields over by Denmark, where you can see the line difference? We should get that picture posted up.
2015, and what it was a levo field with authority put on it, and it was just a perfect storm with weather, and then the slow emergence, and then the authority, but fortunately it was next to a cornfield, and they asked the applicator person to stay back about 4 or 5 foot from the corn, and those stands were perfect. And then where the PPO was, the authority, we had injury, and and that's what really frustrates us when we run into those situations, because we're providing the free replant, and nobody wants to take responsibility. And I feel sorry for the farmer, because he's got all these fingers pointing at each other. In fact, that was the only time I've ever been to a field where there was 10 people out there looking at this field. And, nobody could really end up saying what the real problem was. And I don't think we ever did really pinpoint exactly what happened, but we took care of the replant for the farmer. So at the end of the day, that's one of the things that we do for our customers. And we try everything possible to help them get a good start. And then after that, they're on their own. So, but there is some certain situations where these PPOs can really be antagonistic to soybeans that are coming up slow. And but like Ben says, it's not necessarily too many people take responsibility for their products if something doesn't work perfect.
Right.
But Iowa State, Purdue have both documented that Allevo does not have an interaction with the PPOs, either Authority or Valor. And they've got studies to back it up. And so if you run into that situation, be careful and investigate a little bit further.
Right.
Absolutely.
I agree with you completely.
Well, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and conclude this episode, and we'll see you next week. And again, thank you for your business, and we hope that weather conditions stay favorable for you, so that you can get those weeds killed and get that crop off to a good start, and hopefully the markets keep going up. Take care.